like rings, because it's when you put the segments in there, you really do have rings. So every one of these rings has 36 pieces. The top ones have 18 each one, but I'm not like the other guy. Mine's only 366. So it's not that many pieces.
Only 306.
Yeah. But it turned out pretty good. Anyway,
Very nice, Bob.
Just a solid bottom.
It's beautiful.
But I like the open segments. I like to do segmented stuff anyway, but I really like the open segment stuff. And but this one I thought was unusual to put the splines in there.
It really was.
Demo to me.
That is crazy.
I can do a demo on that, but it's I have it taped, so I have to do a video on it. But I do have it.
My mind is going like, okay, how did he do that?
Yeah, I'll have to show you. I'll have to do a demo and show that. But the coating on this thing, the finish on this is that Krylon. Mark Slay was telling me about that, and I do like that better than I do lacquer. So anyway, it's a Krylon clear is what that one is.
Now, Bob, if we talk demonstration here, and I'm going to be very fair with you because you're one of our members and we're supposed to do that. If I think I'm asking, just like Billy Burton, a few others going to ask, can you show us the assembly?
Yeah, that's it. That's
what I want to see. I want to see the assembly, the how-tos, et cetera, et cetera. How did you get before you turn it?
Yes, that's what I've got here. It's really a how-to more than it is a turning, because there's not a lot of turning in this. You know, you're not turning out a lot of wood. You're only knocking the corners off, inside and outside. So, but I do have that ready to go whenever I can get Dane to let me show that. So,
all right, we'll fit you in the schedule, sir. We will. Okay. Otherwise, got to say right now, that is gorgeous work.
All right, hey, I appreciate that.
Hey, Bob, how long is that video?
The video is only about 50 minutes. It's not that long.
Oh, okay.
You know, I've got it cut down pretty short, so it won't take that long.
I think those splines really add a lot to that.
Do what, Bob?
I think those splines in there really add a lot to that.
Yeah.
I do.
Yes.
I do. That's what I like. I always find pieces on Pinterest and try to figure out how in the world he did it, you know. So that wasn't hard to do. Of course, I got my angles off. If I'd have gone ahead and cut these angles like I should have, I treated it like an open segment, and you don't really worry too much about the angles. You just make it 70% or 60% or whatever less than your regular piece. But since I didn't get it exactly right, then I had to cut every one of these splines at the same angle. So that nearly killed me. I mean, that was a job to cut all those splines the same too. But it did it. It worked out great.
I think it's beautiful.
It is gorgeous.
Yes, it is.
Thanks.
What woods did you use?
I've got maple and bloodwood. I like the bloodwood better than I do Padauk. Padauk's a different color, but I like this one. It does have a lot of splinter. It's kind of like Padauk. It might be even worse. This one's splinter is real. When I say splinter, you know, when you're coming back and you're sanding it down, and even when you're cutting, it throws off little bitty splinters. And since this bloodwood is real hard, they're almost like little needles. And I bet I dug 15 splinters out trying to get it finished.
Well, it worked.
I have to ask, it's a gorgeous piece. Do you get attached to these things? I found when I start making things really nice, I don't want to sell them. And after you get them stacked in the bathroom, you got to start saying, how do you handle that?
I know that's me. I don't want to get rid of it because I don't want to do another one, you know. So anyway,
you see that wall beside him? Yes.
Yeah, so this is what I did. I made if I can get it here, I made some shelves. if that thing will focus again.
Yeah.
There you go. But I made some shelves, and there's 4 shelves, and it's about 7 feet long and 5.5 feet tall or something. But that's what I put all my stuff on. And my wife, I did have them all in the kitchen, and she kind of ran me out of there. With other things.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I'll tell you, I got a whole room full of those shelves, and I'm still running out of space.
No, it's
They're one
easy
of a
to do.
kind, and you don't want to get rid of them.
That's right. Yeah, that's it. I'm only going to make one of them. I really don't enjoy making a bunch of the same thing. I have, but I don't enjoy it that much. I'd rather just make the 1 or 2 pieces, and it's just like these spiraled vases. I enjoyed that, but I don't want to make 50 of them.
Yeah.
Well, and you can't charge enough to sell them.
No.
Saturday, we got people coming over. I had to clean off the whole daggone dining room table. I can't tell you how long that.
Yeah, I hear you. But,
So the wife made you clear out that portion of the shop?
Yeah.
No, it made me clear out the portion of the kitchen. I had all this or a lot of it in the kitchen, and she wanted me out of there, so I made these shelves. And
I keep trying to convince my wife that kitchen table is just another workbench, and she's not agreeing.
no, mine's not
I'll
either.
send you my address so you can clear out some of that stuff that you don't want.
Yeah.
I knew
Yeah,
someone.
You're successful. You're a successful wood turner. You are out of flat spaces in your home.
No, that's right. Yeah. I can understand why people do little things because it takes up less room. When you get these big pieces, it's, it takes up a lot of room.
Yep. But it's very often like this piece, it's well worth it.
Oh yeah. It's worth it.
Thank
I
you, Bob.
enjoy doing it. Yep.
Beautiful.
Thanks.
Question about how you and Ray visualize these things. I don't mean artistically. Obviously, you're incredibly artistic. But I mean, before you do it, do you lay each layer out one at a time on paper and so that you know what it is? Or do you just, some of the things you can find literally a pattern that would be trivial. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, you really get the form. You're looking at the piece and you say, well, that's the form, the shape that I want. And then I take a piece of graph paper in 1/4-inch squares and lay it out, and draw it out and draw that form on here. And then I actually put it on a spreadsheet, but you don't have to. But let me share the screen here just a minute, and I'll
go ahead, sir.
See if I can find.
There are computer.
I guess I'm going to have to open it up first.
There are computer programs you can purchase that will help you with that. They're specifically geared to segmented turning.
Really?
One of my club members who does a lot of segmented turning has the program, and he lays out the shape and the form he wants, and it tells him how big the rings need to be and how wide and so on, and gives him a printout that looks very much like your graph paper looks.
Wow.
So it's all laid out in a graph paper, and then he does the rings to spec.
Yeah, you can do that, but you don't have to. You don't have to buy any of that. It's very simple to do. The formulas are simple. Let me get this thing open and let's see if I can find that vase that I just did. Yeah, there was the formulas. There was the splined one. And let me do a share screen now. Here we go, right here. I have to click on it, double click it or something. There we go. All right, so this is the shape of the vase. You can't hardly see it here, but if you drew a line hitting these corners and you round it and you start hitting the corners again, coming back up, and then I swerve it back up toward the top here. But that's the actual vase that I did. So I drew it out on the 1/4-inch squares, on a graph paper. And then on this Excel spreadsheet, I have this laid out in 1/4 inch squares. So this is an inch and he's got 4 squares in here. And this way was 3/4. The wood was 3/4 or a little more. It wasn't quite an inch. So I just did 3/4. But it's just a guesstimate that way. It's not real critical what you do that way. But the main reason I put it on here, and it doesn't have to be on Excel. I just do it because I can see it. But you want to know what size, what width of a segment, how wide this segment has to be, or how deep, I guess, if you want to call it that way, to be able to get this line that's swinging through here. So this one right here has to be an inch wide, this segment. This segment up here has to be 1.25 inches for everything to make that turn through there. And this other figure right here is the top portion of your little block that you're going to make. If you cut them on 18 segments, then it's 10 degrees per segment. You take the 360 degrees and divide it by 18 and divide it by 2 again, and then you get 10 degrees. But anyway,
I think I'm thinking more about this makes a lot of sense, but I'm thinking about each layer. I mean, you don't have the same color wood in each spot. I mean, you're changing the pattern, and each layer the pattern has to change to turn out right. I'm wondering, do you literally draw each layer from a top view down so that you know where you're going to put?
Yes, if you made it like the previous guy showed us tonight, it showed looked like X's or V's or whatever, a pattern in here. That's what you do. You actually lay that out on a flat piece of paper, and you say, well, if it's 18 segments, or in his case, I think it was, 48 or something. Well, he's got a piece of paper that's 48 segments wide, or he could have. So he's going to repeat that same pattern, so it doesn't have to be the true 48. It could be a portion of that. If it divide that by 6, then he's only got to have these 6 segments, and it's going to repeat every so often. Okay, and he's got that all drawn out on a piece of paper, on a piece of graph paper. Yes. In my case, mine's all maple. Everything from this one all the way down to the bottom down here is maple. The splines are a different color, but that's a different animal. These top 2 rings are bloodwood, and they're all 18 segment rings. These other rings end up being 36 because I actually have a spline plus this open segment portion. But I was talking before about the formulas. You don't, let me go to the formula here. If I get this thing to flip. Here we go. Here's the formulas that I have, and there's nothing special about the formula either. You find the radius, and mine's in radius. You don't have to. You could do it in the diameter, right? But I take that radius, let's say E4 I'm looking at here, and it's a 1 inch radius. So I'm looking at a 1 inch, a 2 inch circle, a 2 inch diameter circle. That's a real little thing, okay? But if you get down to these others, and let's say we go down to like a 4 inch, that would be more realistic here. Like the top of mine is probably a 4 or 5 inch circle. So let's go back to here. That would be a 4 inch circle, a radius of 2 inches. Okay, if I take 18 segments, you don't have to have all the graph that I have. You don't need these other segments in here that I'm showing. We're only worried about one set. So in this case, it's a radius of 2 inches, and there's 18 segments per ring. Okay, so we're only looking at those 2. And if you go look at the formula is really the radius times 2 to get the diameter times 3.14. So you get the circumference all the way around that ring. And then you divide that by 18 because you know it's going to be 18 little pieces in that ring. And then I have a fudge factor here because I know that if you lay it out and you literally look at the flat portion, you're not getting the full width of it because of the flat in the middle. The middle of it is you're going to cut off the top edges and you're trying to make this thing round. So I put a fudge factor in here, and that's what that is. Anyway, the formula is pretty simple. As far as the angle, here's the formula for the angle down here. So it's a 360 degrees divided by the number of segments divided by 2. And that's the cut angle that you're going to have on each side of your little block. If your block is 1 inch wide, that's this line right here was the top of the block. That's how wide that top's going to be. And then you're going to have an angle of, in my case, it was 18. So it is 10 degrees. The cut angle is going to be 10 degrees on each side.
You have an open segment. Do you deduct from that?
I do have an open segment deal of formulas, and all I'm doing here is taking 70% of that other figure I had. So in my open segments, which I have in here, this is an open segment, the maple part is. And let's say I went to this 4-inch radius, again, 4 inches in diameter. And if the ring was 4 inches in diameter, then I take the open segment and I do the same formula up here, but I multiply it times 0.7 because I want 70% of that. If you can go down to 60%, but every time you do, where they overlap gets smaller and smaller. In 70 or 75 or even 65, I've made several with 65. And
you cut them on a wedgie sled?
No, I actually cut them on. I do have a deal like a wedgie sled that I can cut them on, but that's normally not what I use. I have a miter set that I set my miter gauge to, and a little platform that goes on my miter gauge. Same thing. It's just that I use that. I just like the miter set because I can get real accurate with it. I don't have to sit here and jack with it and try to get the circles just right. Usually it turns out every time pretty darn close. So just like these, the top rings that I cut here, these the 2 top red ones, they were 18 segments each at 10 degrees. And when I used the miter set the miter gauge on the table saw and cut them all, well, I didn't have to sand anything. I mean, this thing was so perfect, I didn't sand nothing, and went ahead and glued it up. Anyway, I just like the miter set because I do different angles all the time. Mostly they're 12s or 18s. Once in a while, I'll do a 24 or something. If you do the more segments per ring, of course, it's like the other guy that's earlier. His had a lot of segments, and those little pieces get awful small. I just don't like dealing with all the little small pieces, but you can do it. And a lot of people make them smaller than what he had. They can get some really little pieces. Anyway, that's my 2 formula sets. I have the straight one, and the other one is 70%. And the angle of the, when you go on the open segments, I did the segment length. The top of the length of it is 70% of a normal 18 segment ring. And the same thing about the cut. The angle of the cut is 70% of 10 in an 18. Like right here, a normal cut for 18 would be 10. If I made this a 70% cut, then it's it's only 7 degrees instead of 10. And when I come back here with this one, if I do a 66%, then it's 6.6 degrees. With a miter set, you can get it down to a half a degree. So I really like that. That's a pretty neat little device to have. Anyway,
That's just incredible.
But
It
anyway,
is.
it's easy to do, and I really like the open segments better because it's easier. You're not worried about how it's not critical about this angle. You know, the angle is going to be close to 10 degrees, right? And on this one, it was 7. Well, when I cut the maple out, it should have been exactly 7 degrees, and I didn't check it, and it was a little off. And that made my splines, if it had been exactly right, the splines could have been squared. They could have been parallel pieces of wood. But since it was a little bit off, I had to go through and cut every one of those splines at 3 degrees or 2.5 degrees on each side. It wasn't what it should have been. It could have been easier to make than what I did. But
Well, it came out beautiful. I tell you, that's a gorgeous piece.
yeah, well, thanks. But here's my graph. I just print this graph out, and it's 4 by 3, or I could have made it a 4 by 4. 4 squares and 4 squares. But this is the thing that I take, and I draw my vase out in here first. The outside and the inside. 1/4 inch or 3/8 or however thick I think I'm going to make it. And then I take that and manually, and draw it out on a piece of paper. I'm having this printed out and I'm drawing it out. And then I take that and go back to this and kind of draw it in here. And here I don't draw it in. I just know that, it's got to fit. This square has got to fit between this point, 4 inches and 2 1/4 inches in order to make this slope going up through here. That makes sense. Do y'all understand that?
I got it. It hurts my head, but I got it.
Okay. Okay. In the video, I actually have. I guess I want to stop this. Do you want to continue? Stop sharing the screen. Okay. Okay, there you go. In the video that I have, I actually have. I think I showed it where I had it drawn out in there, but it's not hard. None of that's really hard. Even gluing up the rings aren't hard. I think everybody ought to try it. And but the open segments, you don't have to worry about the angles because you're putting on each segment separately so they don't touch, so they don't have to be exactly perfect.
Definitely looking forward to seeing your video.
Okay, good deal.
Thank you, Bob. Boy, that's some really.
Thank you.
We do get some lovely work in here, and Bob Collins raises that bar occasionally, which is really good. Now, Bob was just talking about laying this out on a computer, or your spreadsheet, or whatever, and that is an amazing process to go through. And once you've done it, once you set it up, you'll understand it, and then you work with it just like that. I'm old school on some stuff. This is a segment planner. Now, myself and a guy named Charlie Craigle drew this up about 20 years ago, and it's got 9 different patterns on it. And it goes from a 2-inch diameter all the way out to a 10-inch diameter, just for this. But the angles won't change. And it's a planning guide. That's all it's for. So if you want to lay pieces out and see how the rings work out and all that, use it. All right. I used to sell this. I have got 6 on a shelf in the office. And the rules in rehab are I can no longer sell anything. That's part of my rules in rehab, and I'm living with it. But I tell you what, the first 6 people to send me an email at worldwidewoodturners@gmail.com, worldwidewoodturners@gmail.com. First 6 people to send me an email and says, I'd like one of those, I will mail it to you, and it is free. it's legal. I didn't sell it. Remember, that's the rules. So if you want one, I'll give it to you. And that's because, if you had one, you'd probably give it to me.